Good Monday morning. It's 5:30. Welcome to Montana This Morning. I'm Victoria Hill. Thank you so much for getting your day started with us after coming off of this beautiful weekend. I couldn't believe it, Miller.
It was nice out there, wasn't it?
Yes.
I actually had a chance to take my family. It's called Two Moon.
Two Moon Park.
Two Moon,
Yep.
yeah. Went down there along the river and spent the day there and had a wonderful time. And unfortunately, we have some changes in the park.
All right. Well, at least we lived it up this weekend. That's
Yeah.
how I see it.
You know, by the way, this next weekend might look pretty good too. Maybe pretty much the same. Maybe not as warm, but hopefully the sunshine will return. But we got a little bit of a blip we have to get through, a little bit of a speed bump as we go along this week. Live look downtown Billings. This is courtesy of the great folks at Stockman Bank, the weather cam there at the airport. We're sitting at 29, feels like 21, dew point at 24. So it's a bit dry out there. Winds out of the southwest at about 8 miles an hour, but we do have some moisture starting to push in. You can see it coming in from the west, where we've got some cloud cover kicking up. Livingston, we've got some clouds at 24, Big Timber at 29, Gardner at 21, down in Powell we're at 37, clear skies in Huntley at 29, looking pretty good right now at Hardin. Highs today mainly in the 50s off to our east. We'll see some 40s off to our west, and you notice we start to see the snow and the rain starting to push in from west to east. Depending on the timing of it, it'll be interesting to see if it makes its way here to Billings. We could see some rain off of it today, then transition to snow tonight, and then maybe some rain tomorrow. If we see anything, not much of accumulation as expected. There's your day planner. We start off with some partly cloudy skies, and then we'll see more clouds later this afternoon, with highs today getting up to, we'll say about 54 here in Billings. So another day we're going to stay above average before we cool down moving forward.
All right. Sounds like a plan. Thank you so much, Miller. I'll get to the news. We begin in Minneapolis this morning, where jury selection is scheduled to start today for the officer charged in the death of George Floyd. Activists and civil rights groups held a silent march over the weekend demanding justice for Floyd. Derek Chauvin is the former police officer charged with second-degree murder and manslaughter charges. He's expected to argue Floyd died from health issues and a drug overdose. Jury selection could be delayed if an additional charge of third-degree murder is added. It is expected to take about 3 weeks to select a jury. New York Governor Andrew Cuomo now faces calls from within his own party to resign. New York State's Senate Majority Leader, who is also a Democrat, issued a statement saying we need to govern without daily distraction. Governor Cuomo refuses to resign. The calls to step down came as 2 more women accused him of harassment over the weekend. Cuomo denies the allegations and told people to wait for the results of an independent investigation before making a judgment. Today, lawmakers will hear the results of a security review following the January 6th riot at the U.S. Capitol. The 15-page review will recommend widespread changes that include hiring more than 1,000 Capitol police officers. The report also calls for the installation of retractable fencing around the building and giving Capitol Police authority to ask for help from the National Guard. Right now, police must go through the police board to get authorization. The study was done by a former Hurricane Katrina commander and other former senior military officials. Congress is expected to send the massive $1.9 trillion stimulus bill to the president's desk as soon as tomorrow. Senate Democrats passed the bill over the weekend after a marathon session. The package includes $1,400 stimulus checks for individuals making $75,000 or less. It also sets aside money for businesses, schools, local governments, and people who are behind on their bills. Now closer to home, it was a busy weekend for Billings police. A man was taken to the hospital and another was arrested after a shooting downtown. It happened on the 1400 block of First Avenue North around 10 o'clock Saturday night. Officers found the 38-year-old victim with the gunshot wound and a 36-year-old suspect nearby. At this time, there's no word on the condition of the victim. Yesterday, police responded to another possible shooting at 341 Sioux Lane in the Heights. Officers found a man unconscious with a possible bullet wound. He was taken to the hospital and detectives are investigating. That same afternoon, police had to taser a man who drove through someone's backyard. They were investigating suspicious activity in the 2200 block of 6th Avenue North. Officers made contact with the man who fled in a vehicle driving through the yard. The vehicle got stuck and the suspect took off on foot. Officers tasered the suspect and took him into custody. In other news, President Joe Biden signed an executive order to expand voting access. The order directs the heads of all federal agencies to promote voter registration and participation. The move comes days after the House passed a sweeping ethics and election bill aimed at ensuring voting rights. It also had provisions expanding early mail-in voting, restoring voting rights to former felons, and easing voter registration for eligible Americans. Scammers are taking it a step further to convince targets they're with the Social Security Administration. Investigators say scammers are now creating fake ID badges. Scammers will text them to try and prove they're a federal agent and need your personal information. Investigators say don't trust anyone over the phone, even if the phone number appears to be real. These numbers can be spoofed. Never give out your Social Security number to someone who calls out of the blue. Demand for U.S.-made goods is surging. The USDA is projecting record farm exports for this year, and it's helping producers and farmers nationwide. Reporter Dan Grossman explains how this shift could also benefit you in the market.
At Five Rivers Cattle Feed, there are 80,000 cattle.
Things have very much improved.
80,000 that Billy Schmitz needs to make sure are profitable when they get sold. This year,
No.
that shouldn't be a problem. Just look how happy he is.
In 2020, beef exports equated to roughly $270 per head. In 2021, taken at USDA's number, it equates to more like $280 to $300 per head.
This year, the USDA is projecting a record number of ag exports to other countries, $157 billion. For people like Billy, that means anywhere from $800,000 to $2.4 million in extra revenue. Big stuff.
Trade is nice, but what's the purpose for trade? It's to support farm income.
Seth Meyer is the USDA's chief economist. He says a big portion of that bump is from China, which has committed to buying more than $38 billion in U.S. farm goods this year, up from a mere $9 billion 2 years ago.
We've kind of had these adverse conditions that have led to government support, exchanging those for market-based dollars.
A lot of this can be traced back to former President Trump, who signed a Phase 1 trade deal with China in January of last year, locking them into those commitments.
Obviously beneficial to the bottom line. We can earn more money for the product that we sell.
It's great for producers like Billy, who endured some rough months during the pandemic, as well as all of us. The extra money from other countries stimulates spending and leads to growth. Good news for small businesses recovering from COVID.
Provides us with a bit of relief, not only as cattle producers, but as farm and ranch families too.
And even better news for our economy. I'm Dan Grossman reporting.
Now, in other news, the number of deadly vehicle crashes across the U.S. spiked in 2020. This despite the number of miles driven dropping by 13%. There were more than 42,000 motor vehicle deaths in 2020. That's up 8% from 2019 and marks a 13-year high. In addition to the spike in death rates, about 4.8 million people were seriously injured in crashes last year. 8 states showed a more than 15% increase in the number of deaths. Texas was at the top of the list with nearly 4,000. Grocery stores started seeing a lot more business when the pandemic hit, but now companies say sales are inching back to normal. For example, Kroger, which is the nation's largest grocery chain, saw a sales spike of 14% in 2020. It expects those sales to drop by 3 to 5% this year and eventually be more comparable to sales in 2019. It's a similar story for other large chains, including Walmart. Vaping marijuana can do more damage to the lungs of adolescents than vaping nicotine or smoking cigarettes. Researchers at the University of Michigan reviewed the results of a 2-year study of 12 to 17-year-olds. They focused on respiratory symptoms that included wheezing, whistling in the chest, and sleep problems. Researchers say these results do not mean smoking is healthy and that all smoking causes lung damage. Vaping marijuana just did the most.